So guys, ESPN just put out their offseason grades for every team in the league, and when they got to the Steelers, they broke it down into 4 parts: the biggest move, a move they liked, a move they disliked, and the overall grade. And that move they disliked, I looked at it and I genuinely don't understand the logic behind it, because on paper, it's actually one of the smarter things this front office did all offseason. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what ESPN said, and I'll show you why I think they got that one flat out wrong. And stick around, because at the end, I've got an update on some training these players have been putting in this offseason, and it actually ties right back into this whole grade conversation. What's up, Steelers fans? Welcome back to the Steelers channel. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So, let me get into it. ESPN's pick for the biggest move the Steelers made this offseason, and I mean this one's obvious, is bringing back Aaron Rodgers. But here's the thing. The guy writing this piece, Seth Walder, he's not exactly thrilled about it. He basically said the reason the Steelers are a long shot in the AFC this year comes down to the quarterback, that they gave Aaron Rodgers a 1-year, $22.5 million deal, and that the last time he was even above average was 5 years ago. And look, I get where that's coming from on the surface, but here's my issue with that whole take. Nobody's asking Aaron Rodgers to be the greatest quarterback of all time again. Nobody in that building is expecting that. What they need is a guy who can be efficient, who can manage the game, and honestly, I think that's very doable for him at this stage. And my question back to Seth Walder, and to anybody who wants to rip the Steelers for this move, is simple. Who else was actually available? Who was the better short-term option sitting there in free agency or on the trade market that the Steelers could have realistically gone and got? Because remember, this team is trying to win now. They're on a clock with Cameron Hayward and TJ Watt, 2 guys who've given this organization everything, and the front office wants to get them a ring before they're done. So when you're thinking about it that way, the best short-term option was always going to be the priority. And honestly, guys, if the Steelers do end up winning it all this year, it was never going to be because the quarterback was slinging it around like it's 2011. It's going to be because of the defense. That's been my read for weeks now. Just like we saw with Seattle last year, just like we saw with Philly the year before that, if you pair a functional offense with a defense that can take over games, that's a real formula. And if this defense can take that next step under the new coordinator, Patrick Graham, I think this team is more balanced than people are giving them credit for. And there's another piece to this that I don't think gets talked about enough. Bringing back Aaron Rodgers isn't just about this season, it's about what he can pass down. They drafted Drew Allar out of Penn State in the 3rd round, and they've also got Will Howard on the roster. Both of those guys get to sit behind and learn from a guy who probably knows the Mike McCarthy system better than anybody alive. So when you factor that in, this isn't just a 1-year Band-Aid. It's setting up whoever takes over in 2027 to actually be ready. Now let's get to the move ESPN actually liked, because I agree with them on this one completely. Signing Jamel Dean in the secondary. 3 years, $36.75 million. And when you stack that up against what guys like Alontae Taylor or Cordell Flott got paid, Jamel Dean's deal looks like an absolute bargain, especially when you look at the tape. 0.7 yards per coverage snap last season. That's top 8 among corners with real volume. I've been saying since free agency opened that this was one of the best value signings in the entire league, not just for Pittsburgh. And what it really unlocks, I think, is the ability for this defense to play true man coverage snap after snap, because now you've got Joey Porter Jr. on one side and Jamel Dean on the other. And honestly, that might be the best corner duo in man coverage in the whole league right now. That's going to give Patrick Graham a lot of room to get creative. Now, here's the part that really got me going, the move ESPN actually disliked. And I want you guys to really pay attention to this one because I think it's honestly a little wild. They said trading for Michael Pitman Jr. was a mistake. Their reasoning was that he's due $24 million in 2026, and that's supposedly more than he'd get on the open market, comparing it to what Wan'Dale Robinson got as a free agent at $17.5 a year. And I'm sitting here thinking, did they actually read the details of this deal? Because the Steelers gave Michael Pitman Jr. a 2-year extension that actually lowers his cap number this season and lowers what he's making per year going forward. When you actually run the numbers with the extension included, you're talking about a 3-year deal worth about $59 million total, which comes out to under $20 million a year. That is not some bloated negative value contract. That's right around the market rate for a legit number 2 receiver. And that $20 million puts him just inside the top 25 receivers in the whole league. And remember, they got him for a late-round pick swap. That's it. For a guy who complements DK Metcalf perfectly, who's got great hands, who's going to be a real weapon in the red zone for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what ESPN is upset about here, honestly. This was a smart move by Omar Khan in this front office, and calling it the move they disliked doesn't make sense to me at all. So when you add it all up, ESPN gave the Steelers' offseason a grade that's barely above a C, and I'll be honest with you, I don't see it that way at all. I think this front office did a really good job building for right now while also setting things up for the future. Was everything perfect? No. You had that whole situation on night 1 of the draft with Mekhi Lemon not going the way people expected, but they turned around and still landed Jamel Bernard, so even that ended up working out fine. When I look at where this roster sits heading into the season, giving young guys like Drew Allar and Will Howard a mentor like Aaron Rodgers, locking up young talent to extensions, and still addressing needs in free agency and through trades, I think this team is in a really solid spot. I'd give this offseason an A-, honestly, not a C.
Now, remember I told you at the top of this video I had an update for you guys, something that actually connects right back into everything we just talked about. Because while ESPN's out here handing out disrespectful grades, the players on this roster are already putting in the work behind the scenes, and I mean serious work. Aaron Donald has been spending a ton of time with the new safety Jaquan Brisker, and honestly, when you look at what Jaquan Brisker brings to the table, I think this might end up being one of the most underrated signings of the entire offseason. Selected in the 2nd round back in 2022, this guy stepped in and started immediately, and the production backs it up. 342 combined tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 4 picks in 52 career games, and the Steelers got him on a 1-year prove-it deal for right around $5 million. That's ridiculous value if he stays healthy. And what really stood out to me is what Aaron Donald was actually telling him. He talked about not living off what you did in the past, about starting over from scratch every single year, studying the film even when you're supposed to be home with family. That's the kind of mindset that separates guys who have a good career from guys who become legends, and now that's rubbing off on Jaquan Brisker directly. He's also working with Roman Wilson and Jamel Bernard, getting those receivers wrapped up, a guy who's worked with basically every great Steelers receiver over the last 20 years. On top of that, you've got other veterans working with guys on the defensive line too. This organization is not leaving anything on the table this offseason. They're pairing up their young talent with some of the best to ever step on a football field. And that's exactly why I think ESPN's grade misses the point completely. You want to talk about a team that's stuck in neutral, going through the motions? That's not what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing a team that brought back a quarterback who can mentor the future, added a shutdown corner for pennies compared to the market, extended a real number 2 receiver at a fair price, and now has their newest safety getting personal coaching from Aaron Donald himself, one of the best defensive players this league has ever seen. Jaquan Brisker even said it himself, that this system fits him a lot better, that he's out there trying to earn every single week. When you put all of that together, the mentorship, the value contracts, the culture this front office is building, I don't see a C-grade team. I see a team that's doing things the right way, quietly. And I think come January, people are going to look back at this offseason a whole lot differently than ESPN wants you to right now. So that's my breakdown, guys. Let me know down in the comments what grade you'd give this Steelers offseason, and let me know what you think about Jaquan Brisker training with Aaron Donald. I want to hear it. Until next time, here we go, Steelers.